see how this works and how my voice is working in this right now. If you can hear me, and you can hear me clearly, let me know. Because otherwise, I'm planning to do these things on the podcast instead. But I tried to test it a million and one ways. Hi, Cinnamon. Test it in a million and one ways. Happy New Year, and see how it's working. So, Happy New Year to all of you. Happy New Year. I hope all of you guys. Yeah, you see, I don't understand. Let's see. Let me get this here. See if this changes the game. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope everyone's doing awesome, doing way awesome. Now, 2021. Happy New Year to everyone. Okay, share the video, share our live here. Let me press these share things to myself. I wanted to make sure that it was actually working before going through all of that. To tell you the honest truth, I don't know how to share it right now. So, la di da. This is, Papa's not that technologically advanced. If yeah, I don't know how to share it. And I'm not going to worry about that, to tell you the honest truth. I'll share it afterwards. So, 2021 had an awesome new year. And today we're taking like a medium chill day. We're starting actually a lot of people's spiritual work today on January 1st. And I've already started some earlier today, and I'll be doing some later on today. Coming up, will be actually at some point doing the ceremony of the year, and as well, I'll be sending out the New Year's kits. So today, what I wanted to talk about is that many people had a very difficult year in 2020. Okay, you can send it via Cash App. A lot of people had a very difficult 2020 and experienced many difficulties throughout that year. And 2020 was an enlightening year and yet a very magical year. It was a year which a lot occurred for many, many people, many unexpected things. If you hear me pausing or you see me pausing, it's because I'm making sure that we're actually together here because Facebook likes to be funny. So that's A. B, like or share the live. We're going to be discussing, 2021. It's time. It's time for you. It's time for love, life, laughter, and freedom. Okay? So share the live if that works for you. And you can always donate if you Cash App, cash symbol Hector Salva. These go up on YouTube usually. So if you haven't subscribed to me on YouTube, Facebook be acting funny with me on any platform that I use. So I've actually considered moving myself over to YouTube more because, it's not so funny acting, but it does take long to post things up. So that's that. But aside from that, 2021. I want to talk about Armando. So, Armando was a really good guy, and he was someone who was trying to attempt to be a baker. And as he was going through the process in this old time to learn to be a baker, he wrote down his recipe as best as he could write. We all know how to read or write to some extent. He had to try to write down how to bake basically bread. And there was a problem, however, because he only learned how to bake bread once or twice. So he only had the chance to actually bake bread with someone else once or twice and see how that process went. So every day Armando went to go start making bread. When he would go to look and check on the bread wouldn't rise. Over and over, day in and day out, Armando kept trying to make bread, and the bread wouldn't rise. And the bread wouldn't rise, and the bread wouldn't rise. He would look over his recipe, and he would see that he put everything in there. Everything according to the recipe he had remembered to write down. But no matter what, the bread wouldn't rise, and so he couldn't sell the bread. And since he couldn't sell the bread, he ended up going into debt. Right? He wasted his money making a lot of bread that basically no one would eat. And so eventually Armando fell himself into debt. One day, to his shop and not understanding that the shop was actually closed. When that person came into the shop, they saw a whole bunch of not good bread sitting around all over Armando. Okay? Or not good bread sitting all around Armando and bread that had never risen. So that person, when Armando first saw them enter the shop, they knew Armando didn't even get up because he was just like over it, right? He had too much of it. He was in debt. The bread wasn't rising. It wasn't working. So he was over it, right? He had wasted every penny in it. So he was just like sitting down, chilling out, not even trying to attend to the person. But finally, the lady comes and says to him, I know how I could change your life. So Armando was like, yeah, this lady's a little kooky. People in town say she's crazy. They say she's weird. They say she's different. I'm not sure. And all I have left is for one last batch of bread. And if I mess this up, that's all my money. I won't even have bread to eat. But Armando, having found himself at the bottom of the pit, he's in the bottom of the pit, in the worst of scenario and circumstance. And either way, based on all what's around him, of all these old breads sitting around that no one was eating and no one wanted, right? Based on all of that around him, he could see, the likelihood was that if he tried to do it again, the bread wasn't going to rise. So he's like, all right, lady, we'll try it. So the lady goes back there and she's like, start making your bread. So he starts making his bread. She takes him and she pauses him in a moment and takes a powder out of her apron and pours it into the bread. She's like, mix that in. It's a magical powder. And he's like, what? Thinks this lady's totally off, right? And then she takes it again and she adds some more, mix that in. And then she makes a few little adjustments in how preparing that bread. When Armando goes to look at the bread, he doesn't see it look any different. He doesn't feel like it's any different. But he's like, yeah, I'll go for it because basically I'm at where I'm at. So that's one of a spiritual lesson, right? And I teach this to people all the time. I'll say it to people, right? Is that when you're in the shit, all you can do is swim in it. That's all you can do. If you act too crazy, the shit'll suck you in like quicksand. Once you're in the shit, all you can do is swim in it. Don't complain about the swimming. Don't complain about being in shit lake. Simply swim. At some point, with making those steps, things are going to come out of there. But that's a side point. You'll get out of the lake. So then eventually Armando goes and he opens up the oven when the woman says it's time. He opens up the oven and what does he find? His bread has risen. His bread has risen, and not only is it wonderful, it's delicious. And this was the secret that he had been waiting for all that time, and over, it wasn't working for him. So he was like, he needed to know what that was and why. So that's when Armando approached the woman and was like, how did you do it? What did you do? You know, what's that magical powder? And the woman told him, the powder is yeast. Right? The powder is yeast. It's what was missing. It was what was missing in your ingredients. Maybe when you had first made the bread, a long time back when you were with someone, they had taken care of that for you. And you didn't realize it. Or maybe you forgot to write it in your notes. Right? Happy New Year, Happy New Year. Maybe you forgot to write it in your notes. But that is what was, right? So, and no matter how much you did this thing over and over, it wasn't going to work until you had that missing element or that missing ingredient, right? So for 2021, it's about getting that missing ingredient in there, right? And for many people, that missing ingredient is all about having that. And wisdom is not knowledge. There's a big difference. Wisdom is not information. A lot of people think wisdom is information. Okay? Wisdom is not knowledge or information. A lot of people have lots of information. Hi, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. Okay? Information without experience, without wisdom. You collect information via school. Lots of people collect information. It doesn't mean that they are the embodiment of that knowledge, of that information. Right? So it takes wisdom. And at that point, because Armando was so down and out, he had the wisdom of like, what else did he have left to try? Right? But sometimes that wisdom comes about that way. Sometimes it comes about another way. Right? And wisdom requires respect. Now, if you're with me, right? If you're walking this path with me, then you have to understand that the mystic of our words are not your definition. Your definition is based on life, society, what you've been told, what you've been groomed to believe each word means. And so then you have a certain understanding of things that is not real. It's based on information and not wisdom. There's a big difference. It's very subtle. And you've been convinced of one being the other, but it's not. Okay? And something that, all right, is, and this is part of a question that I'm actually in my private, we have a group called Sanse Espiritismo y la 21 División that I'm going to address. Is somebody saying something, well, yeah, you just have to be what you want to attract, right? Being what you want to attract, that's not something you control via your mind. That goes, it's way deeper than what you can think or conceive of, right? And that's the biggest flaw in modern spiritualities, holistic systems, all of these things. All right, is thinking that you can control things that simply, and that thinking is the same as being, right? Or that being can be so easily shifted or controlled. That's something upon the mystical journey, which we are going to get into with the Mystic Mavericks, right? Which, by the way, the spirits are going to be renaming. That's just how spirits do. You know, sometimes it'd be like that. But that is what we're going to be getting into because that's what's going to be the keys to unlocking things for you. Right? So, with wisdom, respect is needed. And what you have to understand is that respect is not what you think it is, because when I say respect, you have an idea of what respect is. But that idea that you have of what respect is not what I mean when I say there's a very different. And yet, certain ways and certain expressions of respect may be the same. You have to listen very carefully to my words. And if you're a true disciple, then you know how to be open. And you know that none of my words are simply for throwing. They're very carefully thought out and chosen. Okay? So you have to feel into what I'm saying to you. And if you can't feel into what I'm saying to you, you're going to miss. You're going to miss what's being given. And we do these lives free. You can donate via Cash App, $ Hector Salva. But in each one of these, I'm giving you drops of wisdom that if you're open, can transform you. Okay? If you're open, if you're a disciple, if you're open, right? If you can trust, if you can be open, they can transform you. But if you remain closed, if you remain with your understanding, then you won't be able to get it. It won't change you. It won't shift you. So respect. Respect is to look back at, to regard. To regard is to watch. Right? Respect is an action. It's not a noun. It's a thing it's an activity. It's something that someone is either a respecting individual or a non-respecting individual. And so if you don't have that respecting flowing through you as an individual, if you're not a respecting individual, then you won't even respect yourself. Okay? Remember, respect is to watch. to look back at, to regard, right? So respect is an action. It's not a word, okay? It's not a thing that you can say, oh, I have respect, I have respect, I have respect. Most of the time, people who say they have respect the most have the least, right? But watch, to guard, and to consider. A lot of people want to come into the various pathways, the spiritual pathways, but they lack the essential needed item of respect, which is watching, guarding, and considering. Listen carefully, or you'll miss. Remain. Listen with your heart and not your head, or you miss. Right? And if you're guarding, watching, and considering, you have to know what it is, or actually be able to have seen what it is, to know, to watch, or to consider. Now, you probably missed what I just said there, because I just told you basically a mountain of information right there. A mountain of, first you have to know what it is in order to be respecting. So wisdom and respect, they're two wings on the same bird, right? But there are many false masqueraded versions of both. You cannot simply shift your being by thinking about it. A big misconception that's been taught. It's the same as Armando. You're missing key ingredients and key steps. But many things have been whitewashed or in order to make people feel more comfortable with it. But that means a lack of respect. There's a lack of watching and guarding and considering all the aspects. Trying to do things one doesn't know via experience is therefore also a lack of watching, guarding, and considering. So there's many things that I just gave you in that little piece right there. That little piece is actually a huge piece, right? So taking 2021 to the next level is about gathering those missing ingredients. But just like Armando, right? One needs to be shown where those things are, what those things are, and what's missing, and be given that proper instruction in order for the transformation to occur. And if you're open and you have a true spiritual master with you, and you are a disciple, then you will be able to be transformed. You will transform. It is just like the recipe. It's just like the recipe for the bread, right? Your bread will be transformed. But the wisdom comes to saying, like Armando, something is not calculating, it's not figuring, right? And understanding that help is needed, and that's perfectly normal, and it's the way to get oneself out of the wheel. 20, right? I'll give you another little piece here. 2021 spiritually won't be really in play until almost April, right? So March, April. But once that year hits, and that force of that year hits, it's going to be full on and full force, and there's a chance for you to ride a wave of a lot of good luck so that you can have that transformative year of love, life, and liberation. Because anything less will never be good enough for you. Because you're meant to be here for something more and something greater. And if you're here listening to the message, it's because deep inside of you, you already know that. You may not be aware as much as you should or could, as much as you could be. But inside of you, there you do know. And if you're viewing, it's because you do know that there is something greater for you and you're meant for that. Right? But it's about getting that recipe in place, getting those missing steps and missing ingredients that's going to transform your life, just like that delicious bread, the Armando's delicious bread, right? And then taking advantage of the wave of good luck that's coming up in this 2021. Those of you who have already grabbed the Spirit of Good Luck kits, right? I didn't tell you this in the video before, but I'm going to tell you now. I think there might only be like 2 left, if that. I have to check. Um, for those of you, included what I'm going to be giving you is the reading of the year and how you're going to maximize pulling the luck out that year. But if you were to get that bread right, and then that would be the butter and syrup, baby. Bread, I like lots of butter. Butter makes it better, right? But that luck in 2021 is going to be that butter on that bread. And you can really maximize on it. So that's something I'm going to be giving to everybody who's already in on it. For those who were able to get in on it, there's going to be something else where you can just get that portion about the year's reading. So I hope and pray that you've had a wonderful new year in this piece right here, this little transition piece here into January 1st, 2021. You'll notice I'm trying to get on here all the time for y'all. And a part of my new thing, right, my new commitment for y'all is that throughout this year. And like I said, share this. If you care about somebody, you want them to make growth, right? So share this with your friends, share this on your timeline, etc., etc. You want people to grow because you care, right? And if you're here, you're probably a mystic. And if you're a mystic, then that's part of what we do is we give a fuck. We care, right? So share, like, comment. Sometimes I don't notice these comments until after, but I love to hear it. Love for any ideas for other videos and things of that nature. Always open to that. You can donate if you like. And like I said, that's what we have coming up. And I hope that you've gained some wisdom today and things have become illuminated for you. So, as always, basically keep the faith, stay safe, enjoy this year, and many blessings to all of you.